we will go into details of the liver function test. So what are the liver function tests? So these are the function tests that are carried out to assess any disorder of the liver. So these are the group of tests that are required for diagnosis, to diagnose the disease, then to prognosis. Prognosis means how the disease will progress. Then to monitor the therapy. So how the response to therapy is there. Then based on this we have classified this into 5 classes. So the first class is test based on the excretory function. So there are 4 tests we are usually doing. One is the serum bilirubin, second is urine bilirubin, third is urine bile salt, and the last one is bromosulfathalin dye test. The next group of tests is test based on the detoxification function, that are the blood ammonia and bilirubin and hippuric acid test. Then the third one is test based on the synthetic function. So what protein liver synthesizes? That is the plasma proteins. So we detect the plasma proteins, we do the albumins and globulin, and based on the various synthesis of various clotting factor, prothrombin time is the next thing we will do. So the third group of test is test based on synthetic function, plasma proteins, albumins and globulins and prothrombin time. And the next group of tests are based on the metabolic function. So in these we will take the galactose tolerance test based for the determination of serum cholesterol and ratio of the free to esterified cholesterol. What happens? The cholesterol is esterified in the liver. So ratio of this free cholesterol and esterified cholesterol will give you idea of the synthetic metabolic function of the liver. Then serum protein estimation and serum ammonia estimation. Then the last one is determination of the serum enzymes. As we have already learned in the clinical enzymology, the last are ALT, that is alanine transaminase, AST, aspartate transaminase, and ALP, alkaline phosphatase. So I will once again revise what are the group of tests. The first test are tests based on the excretory function. We will do the 4 tests: serum bilirubin, urine bile salt, bromosulfathalin dye test. Second is blood ammonia, bilirubin and hippuric acid test based on the detoxification function. Then the third group is test based on the synthetic function. In this the plasma proteins, albumins and globulin and the prothrombin time. Then the fourth class is based on the metabolic function. In this we will do the galactose tolerance test, determination of the serum cholesterol and ratio of the free to esterified cholesterol, then protein estimation, ammonia estimation. And the last class is estimation of the serum enzymes, that is ALT, AST and ALP. So this classification you will be asked in the exam to write down you will write down all these 5 classes based on all the functions, this how the liver function tests are classified. Now we will go into the detail. So the first test, which is based on the excretory function. So test based on bilirubin metabolism. So what is bilirubin? Bilirubin actually is the end product of hemoglobin metabolism. So heme is broken down into the bilirubin, and this bilirubin which is formed is called as the unconjugated bilirubin. That is, it is not soluble in the water, so it has to be conjugated in liver and made soluble. So what liver does? Liver conjugates the bilirubin to bilirubin diglucuronide. So that is made soluble and it is excreted through the bile. Then the bilirubin glucuronide which is excreted in the bile and it goes to the intestine. And in intestine what happens? The bacterial enzymes will reduce this bilirubin to the urobilinogen. So in the figure you can see hemoglobin is broken down into heme and globin. Globin is a protein part, then heme is broken down into the unconjugated bilirubin which is carried to the liver. Then in liver it is conjugated to form the bilirubin diglucuronide. Through the bile duct it will go to the intestine, and in intestine this conjugated bilirubin is reduced by bacterial enzymes to the urobilinogen. This urobilinogen is partly recycled to the liver and partly is excreted to the kidneys in the form of urobilinogen. So what bilirubin was there which was unconjugated, that is conjugated, then it will come to the intestine, urobilinogen is formed, that will go to the kidneys and urobilinogen will be excreted. And in the feces what will happen? Urobilinogen is again converted into the stercobilin, and through the feces this bilirubin is metabolized in the form of stercobilin. So in the urine you will get urobilinogen, and in feces you will get stercobilin. Then bilirubin, as I have already told you, it exists in the two forms: the conjugated or the direct bilirubin, which is water soluble; unconjugated or indirect bilirubin, which is water insoluble. So first thing we will need to know is what are the normal concentrations of bilirubin. So what is the total serum bilirubin? Total serum bilirubin is around 0.1 to 1 milligram per deciliter. Then direct bilirubin is 0.1 to 0.4 milligram per deciliter. Indirect bilirubin is 0.2 to 0.7 milligram per dl. You can write down this. Total serum bilirubin 0.1 to 1, direct serum bilirubin 0.1 to 0.4, and indirect serum bilirubin 0.2 to 0.7. Now, how we estimate this serum bilirubin? It is based on the Vandenberg reaction. In this reaction, what happens? Serum bilirubin is allowed to react with the Vandenberg's diazo reagent. So this is the reagent which is allowed to react with the bilirubin. The reagent is called as Vandenberg's diazo reagent. It contains the sulfanylic acid and sodium nitrite in the HCl. So this Vandenberg reagent, it reacts with the bilirubin and it forms a purple color compound called as azobilirubin. So bilirubin reacts with Vandenberg diazo reagent to form azobilirubin. So azobilirubin is a purple color compound, and that is compared to the standard, and you can detect the concentration of serum bilirubin. So now in the bilirubin there are two forms. One is conjugated and one is unconjugated. So this conjugated bilirubin, which is water soluble, will directly react with the aqueous solution of the diazo reagent because it is soluble with water. So it is called as a direct bilirubin. Why it is called as direct bilirubin? Because it will be directly soluble to the water. It doesn't need addition of methanol. Then what happens, which was the unconjugated fraction that was not reacted previously with the aqueous solution of diazo reagent? By the addition of methanol, what we will do in the next step? We will add methanol. So what the first step was that we have added diazo reagent with the bilirubin. Conjugated bilirubin has already reacted. Now what will happen? We will add methanol. Methanol will act as a solvent and it will dissolve this unconjugated bilirubin and it will intensify the purple color. So that is the indirect bilirubin. So why it is called as indirect bilirubin? Because it is not directly soluble in the water and it will be soluble in the water after addition of methanol. So it is called as indirect bilirubin. Now if both conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin are present, then purple color will be intensified. So initially the purple color is formed and that is intensified after the addition of methanol. So this is the basic of this reaction, Vandenberg reaction. Any problem? Shall I proceed? So what is the clinical interpretation? Why we do the bilirubin level? So whenever there is increase in the bilirubin level, it is called as jaundice. So this jaundice needs to be differentiated. What are the causes of this jaundice? Jaundice is only increase in the serum bilirubin level. It is not a disease. It is the increase in the serum bilirubin level. So how it is increased? So there could be various causes. So the cause could be prehepatic, that is before the liver. It could be hepatic, that is problem with the liver. It could be post-hepatic due to the obstruction. So the jaundice are divided into three important diseases: hemolytic jaundice called as prehepatic jaundice, hepatitis called as hepatic jaundice, and the obstructive jaundice called as a post-hepatic jaundice. Now what happens in hemolytic jaundice? So like various hemoglobinopathies like thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, various hemoglobinopathies, what will happen? There will be increased breakdown of the RBCs, so that there will be more metabolism of hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is more broken down into the bilirubin, that is the unconjugated bilirubin. It will be increased. Hence in hemolytic jaundice, what you will see? Increase in the concentration of unconjugated bilirubin and not the conjugated bilirubin. Then in obstructive jaundice, what will happen? Obstructive jaundice means post-hepatic. So whatever conjugation has occurred in the liver, so conjugated bilirubin will be obstructed in the bile. So you will get the rise in the concentration of conjugated bilirubin. So in obstructive jaundice, you will get increase in the level of conjugated bilirubin. And in hepatic jaundice, you will get both conjugated as well as unconjugated bilirubin. They are increased. So there are three kinds. One is hemolytic, second is obstructive, and third one is hepatic. In hemolytic jaundice, you will get the unconjugated bilirubin. The conjugation occurs in liver, so that in obstructive jaundice, you will see the rise in the conjugated bilirubin level. And in hepatic jaundice, both fractions will be increased, both conjugated as well as unconjugated bilirubin. Next slide is how we will differentiate. We will come to this slide afterwards. So the next thing is urine bilirubin. So normal individuals, bilirubin is not excreted in the urine. What happens, as all we know, bilirubin is not directly soluble in water, so it will not go directly to the kidneys. It has to go through the intestine. It has to get converted into urobilinogen and it will be excreted. So bilirubin is normally not found in the urine. So when it is present in the urine, that means there is some problem with the liver. So as only conjugated bilirubin is soluble in the water and is excreted in the urine, but not the unconjugated bilirubin. So what will happen? Conjugated bilirubin will be in the urine. When there is problem with the increase in the conjugated bilirubin, you will get the increase in the urine bilirubin. So as you already performed the test for bilirubin, Fauchet test. Yes, you learn about the Fauchet test. So Fauchet test is done for detecting the urine conjugated bilirubin. You are done in the abnormal urine, na? Yes, you are done it in the abnormal urine, Fauchet test. Then, what is the clinical interpretation? So conjugated bilirubin appears in the urine in the patients of obstructive and hepatic jaundice, not in hemolytic jaundice, because hemolytic jaundice it is unconjugated form. Then urobilinogen. As I have already seen, urobilinogen is formed in the intestine. So amount of urobilinogen present in the urine depends on the amount of bilirubin entering the intestine. So this is urobilinogen is estimated by Ehrlich aldehyde reagent. You will learn it in the next practical. Ehrlich aldehyde reagent is the reagent used for the estimation of urine urobilinogen. What is the clinical interpretation? Normally, trace amount of the urobilinogen present in the urine. So increase in the urobilinogen in urine is found in the hemolytic jaundice due to excess production of bilirubin. So what will happen if there is more breakdown of the RBCs, that will form more hemoglobin, then more heme, more unconjugated bilirubin that will go to the intestine, more urobilinogen will be formed and you will get more urobilinogen in the urine. So in hemolytic jaundice you will get urobilinogen, increased amount of urobilinogen in the urine. In hepatitis what will happen? Urobilinogen in urine may be normal or may be decreased. So when you will get it normal, because unconjugated bilirubin is not that much it is, then if conjugated is increased, then what you will do? So if there is obstruction to the flow of this, if there is obstruction to the flow of this unconjugated bilirubin or conjugated bilirubin, what you will see, there will decrease flow to the intestine, decreased formation of urobilinogen in the intestine. So in hepatitis, what you will get? You will get either a normal level of urine urobilinogen or decreased level of the urine urobilinogen. Now in obstructive jaundice, what happened in the obstructive jaundice? Due to the complete or almost complete biliary obstruction, no urobilinogen is formed, because what is happening? Bilirubin is going to the intestine, that is blocked somewhere. So bilirubin will not go to the intestine, no urobilinogen is formed and you will get no urobilinogen in the urine. So in obstructive jaundice there will be no urobilinogen in the urine. So in hemolytic jaundice there will be increased urobilinogen in the urine. In hepatitis it may be normal to decreased. In obstructive jaundice you will get no urobilinogen in the urine. So we will see the chart. There it is nicely explained. So this is the chart. So we will detect the three things: serum bilirubin, urine urobilinogen and urine bilirubin. So what is the normal level of conjugated? 0.1 to 0.4. What is the normal level of unconjugated? 0.2 to 0.7. And urine urobilinogen normal level is 0.4 milligram per 24 hour. And normally urine bilirubin is absent. So these are the normal parameters. Now we will go to the three types one by one. The first is the hemolytic jaundice or prehepatic jaundice. In that the conjugated bilirubin is normal. Understand? But unconjugated will be increased. So as unconjugated bilirubin is increased, it will go to the intestine. You will get more urine urobilinogen. So level of unconjugated bilirubin is increased, level of urobilinogen is increased. But as you know, this unconjugated bilirubin is not soluble in the water. You will get urine bilirubin absent. So two features of hepatic jaundice: raised unconjugated bilirubin, raised urobilinogen urine, and absent urine bilirubin. Then next is the hepatic jaundice. In this hepatic jaundice, as I already told you, you will get both increased conjugated as well as unconjugated bilirubin. Urobilinogen in the urine might be normal or it might be decreased if there is obstruction to the ductules, and urine bilirubin may be present if there is obstruction to the bile ductules in the intrahepatic bile ductules. So this is a picture of hepatic jaundice. You will get both forms raised, unconjugated as well as conjugated. Urine bilirubin might be normal to decreased, and urine bilirubin may be present. Then the next thing is obstructive jaundice. In obstructive jaundice, what is happening? Conjugation has already occurred. So unconjugated bilirubin will be normal, but conjugated form will be increased because it is not able to go into the intestine. So if it is not going to the intestine, urobilinogen is not formed in the intestine. So there will be absence of urobilinogen in the urine. And as you know, conjugated bilirubin is soluble in the water, so it will appear in the urine. So urine bilirubin will be present. So this is how, based on these three tests, serum bilirubin, urine urobilinogen, and urine bilirubin, we will differentiate hemolytic, hepatic, and obstructive jaundice. So now we will proceed with the test based on the detoxification function. So what is the function of detoxification? Is one of the most important function of liver. So if liver won't detoxify the toxic substances, they will accumulate in the body and you will get the various deleterious effects. Like in hepatic encephalopathy, what is hepatic encephalopathy? In the hepatitis, what happens? Or in cirrhosis, what happens? Liver is not able to detoxify the toxic compounds like ammonia. They will escape in the blood-brain barrier and they will cause various toxic effects on the brain. That is called as hepatic encephalopathy. In this case, patient might go into coma and he may die. So detoxification is very important function of liver. So that based on that detoxification function, we perform certain tests. The first test is determination of blood ammonia. So what liver does with the ammonia? So this liver detoxifies ammonia to the urea in the urea cycle. So part of urea cycle occurs in the liver, and in that thing ammonia is converted into the urea. So in liver disease, what happens? The ability to remove the ammonia is impaired. So that will cause the toxic effects. So what is the normal level of blood ammonia? So it is 40 to 70 milligram per deciliter of the blood. And what is the clinical interpretation? So high blood levels of ammonia are found in the various liver disorders like hepatitis and cirrhosis. Now test based on the synthetic function. So what is the most important synthetic function of liver? So synthesis of plasma proteins is the most important function of the liver. So what we do? We perform the practical for this determination of serum total proteins, albumin and globulin. So I will not go into the details of method, how we perform this. We will learn it in the practical. So what is the normal concentration of serum proteins? So total serum protein is about 6 to 8 gram per deciliter. Then serum albumin is 3.5 to 5.5, globulin is 2 to 3.5, and albumin globulin ratio is normally 1.2 to 1.6 as to 1. So again I will revise. Normal serum total protein is 6 to 8 gram per deciliter, albumin is 3.5 to 5.5, globulin is 2 to 3.5 gram per dl, and A by G ratio, that is albumin by globulin ratio, is normally 1.2 to 1.6. What is the function of proteins? So they exert actually a plasma oncotic pressure. So that has to be maintained. If in liver disorder, what happens? Secretion of albumin goes down. So that has to be compensated. So globulin has to be rise. So from where it will come? From the reticular endothelial cells. Globulin secretion will be increased, and the ratio what was there previously, normally more albumin and less globulin, will be reversed, will be altered. So this will occur in the advanced liver disorders. Then what is the clinical interpretation? So the first thing is hypoalbuminemia, that means decrease in the blood concentration of albumin, will occur in the cirrhosis, that is the latter stages of the liver disorder, and there will be hyperglobulinemia. To compensate for this hyperglobulinemia, globulin concentration will increase, and you may see it in the cirrhosis or also in the infectious hepatitis. So, advanced stages of liver diseases, albumin is decreased, globulin is increased, and what will happen? A by G ratio is altered. So, they will ask you in the exam what are the causes for the reverse A by G ratio. So, advanced liver disorder is one of the causes. There is one more cause we will see is the multiple myeloma. In multiple myeloma, what happens? The concentration of globulin increases. So, normally globulin concentration is less, but in multiple myeloma, globulin concentration will increase, and you will see the reverse A by G ratio. So, reverse A by G ratio is a suspicion for an elderly patient. You might suspect multiple myeloma, because in elderly patients, what happens? Multiple myeloma is one of the common cancers, that is the plasma cell dyscrasias. You will see raised concentration of globulin. So, that is one important thing. So, what are the causes of A by G ratio reverse? The first thing is advanced liver disease, second is multiple myeloma. So, you should be able to tell this in the exam. In Viva, you will be asked these questions. So, the globulin fraction which is increased in the multiple myeloma is actually a gamma globulin, that is more increased. So, when we perform the electrophoresis, so in electrophoresis we will have in the practical for this also demonstration in electrophoresis. So, we will show you the slides. There will be alpha globulin, beta globulin, then gamma globulin, and this gamma fraction is increased in the multiple myeloma. Now, determination of the prothrombin time. So, as I have already told you, various clotting factors are synthesized in the liver. So, if there is a liver disease, what will happen? Concentration of clotting factor will decrease. So, clotting time will raise. So, that is measured with the prothrombin time. So, prothrombin time will be prolonged in cases of the advanced liver disorder. Then, factor like factor 2, factor 5, factor 7, 9 and 10. If any one of these factors is deficient, you will get prolonged prothrombin time. So, this is the function of liver to synthesize the clotting factors. So, in liver disorder, what will happen? Concentration of clotting factor will go down. So, clotting will be prolonged, and that is measured by prothrombin time. So, prothrombin time will be prolonged. Normal prothrombin time is 12 to 15 seconds. If it is prolonged, then you can suspect liver disorders. Then, test based on the enzymes for diagnosis of liver diseases. As I have already taught this in the clinical enzymology chapter, one is the alanine transaminase, one is the aspartate transaminase, and other is the alkaline phosphatase. From this, alanine transaminase and aspartate transaminase are used for the properly any hepatic disorder, and this alkaline phosphatase is used for the obstructive jaundice. What are the other parameters we do for the obstructive jaundice? That is the gamma GGT, gamma glutamyl transferase, and 5' nucleotidase. So, two enzymes for the hepatic disorder, that is AST and ALT. So, they will be more raised in hepatic disorder. Alkaline phosphatase, GGT, and 5' nucleotidase will be raised in the obstructive jaundice. So, these are the other enzymes we do: lactate dehydrogenase, serum nucleotidase, GGT, and isocitrate dehydrogenase. This we do rarely. These three we do commonly: ALT, AST, and ALP. Now, what is the clinical interpretation? So, again, we have to differentiate based on these enzymes. We can differentiate hemolytic, hepatic, and post-hepatic jaundice. So, as I already told you, AST and ALT will be markedly raised in case of the hepatic disorder. So, the levels will go up to 500 to 1500 units per liter, and they will be raised in the obstructive jaundice, but not to that extent. So, they will be only up to 2 to 3 times of the normal upper level. So, they will go up to 100 to 300 and not more than that. But in the hepatic jaundice, they will increase markedly. So, level will go 500 to 1500. And in hemolytic jaundice, what will happen to the enzymes? Anybody? Enzymes will be always normal in hemolytic jaundice. So, AST, ALT and ALP, all three are normal in the hemolytic and hemolytic jaundice. All three enzymes are normal in the hemolytic jaundice. AST, ALP will be increasing both, but the concentration, that is ALT and ALP, will be markedly increased in the hepatic jaundice, while they will be slightly increased in the obstructive jaundice. while ALP will be markedly increased in the obstructive jaundice, but that is slightly increased in the hepatic jaundice. So this is how we can again differentiate these three types of jaundice based on these enzymes. So all enzymes will be normal. In hepatic jaundice, AST and ALT will be markedly raised, and in post-hepatic jaundice or obstructive jaundice, ALP will be markedly raised. So this is how we differentiate the various types of jaundice based on the bilirubin, urine bilirubin, urobilinogen and enzymes. So all these 4 parameters we will use for differentiation of the 3 types of jaundice. So AST normal level is 5 to 40, ALT level 3 to 40 international units per liter. Then this is already I have explained. AST and ALT are rise in the liver disorders. As AST is not very specific to liver, it will be increased in the other disorders of kidney as well as skeletal muscle. So ALT is specific for liver, AST is not that specific. It could be increased in the other disorders like skeletal muscle disorder. It will be increased in the myocardial infarction. It will be increased in the brain and kidney disorders. So ALT is very specific, not the AST. Then what is the clinical interpretation? That we have already discussed. Marked rise in the level of ALT and AST in the hepatic disorder, and marked rise of ALP in the obstructive jaundice. This I have already told you. Now ALP. Regarding ALP, as I already told you, ALP is not very specific to liver. It is also increases in the pregnancy. It will also increase in the bone disorder. It will also increase in the various carcinomas. So it has got various isoenzymes. One is specific for liver, one is specific for bone, one is specific for cancers, that is called as the Regan isoenzyme. So I will not go into details of that, but you know that ALP might be raised in the other disorders also. But for limiting to the obstructive jaundice, ALP is rise in the obstructive jaundice. Thank you for your patience listening.